Hi, Dave.
Well, hello, Pam.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing great. I want to welcome you and our listeners to Gigi and the 561 today. I appreciate you being here from across the country. You're several time zones away from me.
Yes, ma'am.
How's the weather there in Cathedral City / Palm Springs?
Oh, we're about 74 degrees and sunny, so it's not too hard to take.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. And you have some pretty nice digs there. I haven't seen them in person, but I have seen and am jealous of the photos of them. And your Christmas decorations were off the hook. I mean, unbelievable.
Thank you.
You're incredible. We have several things to talk about today, and as we are chatting, there's some pretty serious stuff going on in our country right now, so I don't want to ignore that fact. It's happening right now on this date here in January, but we're going to leave that aside, and we're just going to talk about some things about you. You have had quite a lifestyle change in moving you and Mike Lewis, your husband, moving across country in a pandemic. Who does that?
I know. I never was one for, taking the easy way out.
Right. Well, selling a home, moving across country, I mean, from really different climates, and to go from it being, because it can get really warm where you are now in the desert.
Yes. In the summer, it can get up to about 120.
Have you been there a lot when it's that hot? That's hot.
That is hot. Well, they call it a dry heat. That's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's quite warm. But yes, we have been here during being that warm. I looked at it this way. I came from Montana. So
wow.
We can get about 120 for about 8 to 10 weeks a year here. So you basically spend the time between, your house, your car, and indoors or in the pool.
Well, that's just a whole lot like being in Texas, or because I know you've also lived in Texas, or in Florida, where we are. Same
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And in Montana, we get four months of winter, and it's 19 below. So you're between the car and the house and work. So it's much more doable here.
There was a time when I would say to Gary, why do we live where it's hot? This was years ago. Let's live someplace cool. And then when we did in Ohio, I'm like, why are we here where it's cold? Remind me. And he's like, you wanted to be where it's cold, so we're where it's cold. But seriously, I want to talk about several things here going on with you, with your giant move that you made, and I want to talk about an unplanned pregnancy that happened in your life. Now, people, stay with us because you're going to want to hear this one. You're going to want to hear this one. I want to ask you, do you make New Year's resolutions?
No, I don't think I really do. I just try.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either.
One thing, a lot of people, especially this year, I've seen a lot of people saying that they want to just forget 2020. And I there are parts of it that I'd rather not remember. But I think it's really important to remember some key elements and bring it with you from year to year. So, so I do that. But as far as making sure or making a resolution that I'm going to, eat better or lose weight, no, I don't do that.
I never do that either because, number one, it's pointless. And I just don't like to predict. I like to be in the moment. It's like, what am I going to do today? And then we'll go from there. But you have made a dish that a bread. I guess it's bread. The nut swirly bread. Tell me again what it's called.
Povatizza.
Yes, povatica, people. If you don't know what that is, it's a nut roll, like swirled bread, and you made that from scratch, and it looks so beautiful.
Well, thank you. I will make sure you get some of it next time.
Thank you. What else during all this pandemic are you doing to keep sane and to just keep it real, keep it happy? Because I know you, and I know you're very upbeat and you're a very, very positive, happy person. But it's been such a challenge. So I know you're cooking more, but what are you doing in particular, if anything, to make it special?
Well, I think gardening. This time of the year, we're usually shoveling snow. So having green grass and plants growing is unique, and also the plants down here and even the growing cycles and what you can grow and all that kind of stuff is totally different. So I'm doing a lot of reading about that and trying to find some groups, social distancing groups with Zooming and different things about learning about how to basically garden down here. The other big thing I've been doing is basically just trying to get settled. We moved from a 4,300 square foot house with a 5-car garage down to 2,100 square foot and a 2-car garage.
That's a big change.
That's a huge change. And just trying to get organized and, just trying to get organized is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But it's getting there.
Well, I know that you have spent so much of your career working with the public and all of that. And so I know you must be feeling sort of the pain of some of these people out there on the front lines having to deal with the public right now, because everyone is on edge and not everyone can find a way to be happy and get through it, because we've been in it for so long. I mean, when it first started, it was like, okay, we're going to come out of this pretty fast, and then we haven't. And it takes a toll on people. But so I know you, with your career of meeting the public so much, or just dealing with them, not necessarily meeting them face to face, but having to, calm people down, get them off the ledge. Have you thought about those types of people during all of this?
I have. It's I actually worked they moved us home in March, and I worked until August at home before I retired. And
you're too young to retire. Listen. When you see his photos on NorthPalmBeachLife.com with this podcast, you're going to not believe he's retired. But I digress. Go ahead.
Well, the reason I was able to retire is I married a CPA who had a retirement plan since he was in grade school. So
CPA. I don't doubt that for a second with the CPA.
Oh, we have a spreadsheet for everything. Anyway, yes. So I am very lucky I got to retire. So when we even the March through August, you could tell that the anxiety of customers and the anxiety of even the representatives on the phone. I feel sorry for the representatives. They're just, it's just, you're trying to learn everything new. You're trying to relearn everything. And usually after 30 some years in customer service, usually everything boils down to money. Mm-hmm. Usually a customer is upset because they can't afford something, whatever that is. And they're sometimes irrational about that, but that is the ultimate thing. And with today's economic situation, political situation, and the pandemic, I mean, that's just, it exasperates everything.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to a lot of everyone in the situation, actually.
It's really stress overload for the whole country. It really is on so many levels. So I do want to get to the unwanted pregnancy situation in your life, because I like that whole story. I like the entire story. But I found it so fascinating, and how funny life is, and the degrees of separation that may or may not exist in our lives. When you and Mike moved to Cathedral City, you discovered something about your grandfather and his second wife, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that again.
Okay, so that was, it's really kind of weird. I don't know if you believe in fate or destiny or anything.
Oh, I do. Mm-hmm.
But my aunt, who lived in Arizona, had passed away last year, late last year, mid last year, and she gave a box of photos to her sister, my other aunt. And she went through them. She didn't really want to hang on to them, so she offered them to me. So I got them, and I was going through them, and I saw these pictures. And mind you, we bought this house 5 years ago, so everybody in my family knew I had a house down here. This is eventually where I wanted to retire. So I'm looking through these photos, and I see a picture of my grandfather and his second wife, the grandmother that I knew. And on the back of it said Palm Springs with a line written through it and said Cathedral City honeymoon. And I was like, oh my God, how did no one tell me about that? That's so weird. So I kind of asked around, and everybody was like, well, we were kids. We don't really remember, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, that's fine. So fast forward to when we moved down here late last year, I was doing that organization thing, or the attempt of, and I took a picture, scanned in those pictures, and I put them on a Facebook page down here, and I just put it out there and said, hey, does anyone recognize where this is or what was going on? And so a really nice lady responded, and she must know everybody in town. Come to find out that my grandfather was down here visiting his brother, and his brother owned a trailer park, and it was literally about 7 minutes from where I live.
That is unbelievable.
It was amazing. It was like,
that really is. Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, it was, and she was telling me, so your grandmother worked at this building, and then my grandpa's grandmother, so my great grandmother and grandfather are buried here.
Dave, oh my, that is just astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, that you would end up. Wow, yeah, I do believe in destiny and fate and things that bring us together, and the oh wow moments. Absolutely do believe in that. And speaking of that, let's move on to the unplanned pregnancy. You know how much I love the fur babies, and you have an amazing puppy pack. And before we really get into anything, I want to say something. Mike and Dave have 6 puppies that all look so much alike, it's unreal. But do you drug those dogs to get those photos? Because I swear I have never seen anything like that. You get the most amazing photos of 6 little dogs being perfect angels in a photo. Do you drug them? I mean, what goes on there?
No, they're in total control all the time.
They're so cute.
They are getting used to doing the photography thing, but no, I have no control over them. They control me.
It's amazing.
That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, well, that's true. I do agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, he ended up with 6 totally by accident. And again, back to the fate thing, they're one of the reasons why we are where we are, actually, because there's 6 cities down here in the valley, and only 2 or 3 of them will allow us to have 6 dogs with a kennels license. So limited us to where we could go. And then also like HOAs don't allow 6 dogs, which I personally am not a fan of an HOA. So that's another.
Yeah, I hear you.
But so anyway, that's how we landed where we landed, is we actually got a kennels license before we got the house.
Priorities.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we were living in Montana. We had a St. Bernard. Unfortunately, she's gone now. But
I'm sorry.
We got 2 small dogs, and I've never had small dogs before, but fell madly in love with them. We adopted them from Missouri and brought them home. My daughter lives in Missouri with her husband in Weston, Missouri, and so she brought one of them home, and then my husband went down and brought the other one back. And so we were just a family of basically the 2 small dogs after Gracie had left. And my mom's boss called up one day and said, can Sebastian be a sire to this other dog? And I said, well, yeah, but I don't want a puppy.
No more puppies.
I do not need 3 dogs. So that happened. And then about 4 months later, I get a call one night from my mom who said, so-and-so wants to give up custody of Teddy. She says she's too old to have another puppy, and she wants you to get him back. Well, I said, well, no, I can't have 3 dogs. That's insane. Who has 3 dogs? So I spent an hour trying to get a hold of Mike to see what he thought we should do, and it seemed like a lot longer. He says he just had the phone in the locker while he was at the gym. But by the time he got done with the gym, we had 3 dogs. And so then we went through a year or so with just 3 dogs. And then Sophia was gaining a little bit of weight, and we were kind of concerned about her. So she had a checkup scheduled with the vet, and I took her in on a Tuesday. Funny how you remember certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And said, "Do you think she could be pregnant?" And they asked all these questions. You know, is she nesting? Did she quit eating? They took her temperature. They felt her tummy. They said, "No, she's a small dog. She has probably a pseudo pregnancy, and she probably will start losing the weight in a few weeks to a month or so. We could do an X-ray." And I was like, "No, I'm not going to do an X-ray. One, if there's puppies in there, I don't want them to be X-rayed."
Exactly.
She's not. I mean, that's just silly. And you're telling me
Yeah.
she's about 4:00. I left the vet's office, and at 7:00, I'm cooking dinner, same night. And they always, sit at my feet when I'm cooking dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sebastian and Max came over, and I gave them their treats. I'm like, "Well, where's Sophia?" So I go over, and there she is with puppy.
Oh, and you got a new vet after that, right?
I kept the same vet, but I did. She ended up having 3 that night. I called the vet the next morning. I said, "Well, you're right. Sophia's not pregnant." And they said, "Oh, yeah, we know." And I said, "No, you don't," because she had the babies last night, and we're named.
Oh, Dave. Oh.
Sue, Doe, and holy shit. So then, expecting them, I fell in love with them. Neighbor was supposed to take one, and then her mom got sick, so she didn't. And then Mike's sister was supposed to take one, and she wasn't able to. And you know what? It was just like, I can't break up the family. So
yeah.
What do? You end up with 6 dogs, and you go with that.
But the thing is, with your dogs, you bunch them together, and they kind of make like maybe 2 dogs because they're just so small. You just have to bunch them, they're not really 6 HOA people. There's just 2 of them.
And they're all together, they're under 80 pounds.
Oh, I don't doubt it. They're so cute, and you just get the greatest pictures of them ever. Listen, Dave, I appreciate your time so much, and I've missed you. And then, when Gary and I were in Palm Springs, we just, hated that it was the time of year where you and Mike were not there. But when we were actually supposed to be back in Palm Springs a few months ago, we had it all planned. We had it booked, and of course that didn't happen. But the next time we're there, dinner's on us, drinks are on us, but sitting around a pool is on you, because I want to sit around your pool because it just looks so beautiful.
Well, as long as you're willing to have some puppy loving, you're for any time.
I can't think of anything I would like more, except I could possibly stick one in my bag and make away with it, because they're so cute. I do thank you so much, and my regards to Mike, and give some of those puppies love. But one last thing before we go.
Okay, tell Gary hello.
I definitely will. I want you to promise me that you will come back very soon, and do another podcast, because you have an FBI related story that I really want my listeners to hear. So do you promise to come back, and we'll chat about that a little bit?
I could probably be coerced into doing that.
Okay, that sounds like a deal. Thank you, Dave. And thanks everyone for being here to listen to my good friend, long-time friend, even though he is way younger than me, Dave Hafer there in beautiful Cathedral City, California, Palm Springs area. Please be sure to visit northpalmbeachlife.com, where you will see the podcast if you're not picking it up on iTunes or some of the other platforms, because on northpalmbeachlife.com you will see photos of this amazing puppy pack, Mike and Dave. You need to see all of them. I thank you all so much for being here, staying with us on Gigi in the 561. Stay tuned.